What I'm trying to present to you today is basically three items. Climate change in the NORA-Region, because we have been speaking a lot about climate change, but I'd like to give you some figures, some evidence. The second item would be the impact of such climate change on sectors. On a lot of sectors actually would be impacted. And the third element would be what are the opportunities for cooperation among NORA countries, which is the aim of this OECD review. So I think it's quite important to state that by the end of the century, by 2100, we have predictions, a lot of predictions around the planet, which suggests that the climate will be more humid and warmer. I think it seems to be a simple statement, but it has a lot of implications. So we have some figures. Of course, predictions vary among authors. There are a lot of uncertainties. But what we came out with is that temperature will increase more than the global mean on the planet in this NORA region, especially in the Arctic part of it. So just a few figures. In the Faroe Islands, up to 1 to 2 degrees Celsius increase. If you compare 1960 to 1990, this 30 years period, to 2020 and 2100. If you look at Western Norway, it would be around 2 degrees Celsius increase. In Iceland, 2 to 3 degrees increase. In Greenland, 2 to 4 degrees, or even, according to some predictions, 7 to 8 degree increase. Now, if you look at precipitation, again, few figures to the NORA countries. In Faroe Islands, it would be a 4% increase. In Greenland, would be up to 30% increase. And this, I'm talking about mean, national mean. If you look at Norway, it's around 20%. But the largest increase will be exactly in the western region we are interested in. And in Iceland, it would be up to 40% in winter. So I'm still comparing the 60-90 period with the 2020-21,000 period. So the combination of these two factors, which mean increased precipitation and increased temperature, could actually result in increased melt rates at the margin of Greenland, ice sheet, but increased accumulation rates in the interior of Greenland due to snowfalls. In Norway, the snow season is expected to be reduced by as much as 2 to 3 months at low altitude, but may increase in the northernmost areas and at high altitudes. In Norway, and also Iceland and Greenland, the size and quantity of glaciers are expected to reduce drastically over the 21st century. So the impact of climate change is also to be seen on sea ice and sea levels. If you look at the sea ice cover in the Arctic during the summer, it has already decreased by 15 to 20% over the past 30 years. And it is expected to further decrease by over 50% by the end of the century. Now, if you look at the change in the sea levels, it's much more uncertain due to questions, for example, of the melt rates of Greenland, but also of the Antarctic land ice. A new study was released last month, financed by the NASA, and it reveals that ice melts in Arctic and Antarctic was accelerating 3 times quicker than ice melt in the mountainous areas of the planet. If the trends continue like that, the sea level will rise by 32 centimeters by 2050. This is the latest estimate according to NASA data last month's issue. It's much more pessimistic than the forecast issued by the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, the IPCC, in 2007, which was 15 centimeters. If you took Norway, the projected sea level rise by 2100 is 70 centimeter increase along the coast of western Norway. So, in brief, climate change will have, or is expected to have, a lot of impacts in this part of the world. So, what is the consequence for key sectors of the economy in this region? So, we had already a detailed explanation on fisheries, but just to summarize what the climate dimension would be on fisheries, basically the sea temperature change and changes in salinity will affect distribution of the key fish stocks. For instance, we can have a northward shift of fish stocks, but also appearance of new fish stocks from the south. Key cod stocks are predicted to respond to temperature increases by moving north of Iceland and into the Barents Sea. We could have establishment of a new Greenlandic cod stock, but in Greenland, climate change is likely to lead to a decrease in the stock of cold water shrimp. Stocks of herring and mackerel may move from the North Sea into the North Atlantic. Anchovy, sardines, tuna are possible new species in the North Atlantic. Productivity of fish is expected to increase due to climate change. But we have also negative impacts. For instance, possible invasion and establishment of non-indigenous species. And also increased water temperature will make some areas too warm and increase the risk of algae bloom. If we look at agriculture, increased temperature and longer growing season will open opportunities for agriculture. The effects have already started to be felt. For instance, in Greenland, sheep farming is already increasing in importance, as well as agriculture in the south with longer crop season and the harvesting of new vegetable. We actually had a chance to taste potato in Greenland when we went there, and we were told it's the best in the world in terms of taste. So in Norway, the northern limit for growing wheat may move 160 to 180 kilometers per degree Celsius increase. So it's rather a positive impact on agriculture. But again, climate change will lead or could lead to the invasion of non-native species. In the northern regions of Norway, traditional reindeer migration routes are likely to disrupt. In Greenland, there is likely to be a major impact on mammals, and many species rely on stable sea ice conditions for feeding. And I am looking at this polar bear, which is exposed there. So there will be potentially a great effect on traditional hunting communities in Greenland. If you look at the impact of climate change on energy, so higher temperature will reduce the demand for heating, whereas the demand for cooling and air conditioning is not expected to increase. Most electricity production in Norway and a substantial part in Greenland, Iceland, and Faroe Islands is based on hydropower. The inflow to hydropower plants will increase, electricity supply will increase, and electricity demand will decrease. So all of that are positive trends. Also, warmer climate could increase access to a range of opportunities for mineral and oil exploitation, particularly in Greenland, in areas previously hidden by ice sheets. In addition, climate change could increase accessibility to the expected considerable reserves of petroleum off the coast of Greenland and facilitate its transportation. Transport, another area. So the impact of climate change on accessibility is a key concern in the region, as we know that most of this population are living in remote and peripheral parts. So in particular, the reduction in the amount of sea ice will have important implications for maritime access. Some predictions suggest that the Arctic Ocean could be free of ice for a period in summer by the middle of the century. As a result, the length of the navigation season could increase by more than 3 months by the end of the century. Greater use of the northwest route shortens transport distances between the Far East and Europe by up to 40%. Again, changes linked to global warming could also have negative impacts here. Storms could affect reliability of local ferry and transport services. Invasive species could be transported into new marine environments via new sea routes. There would be also impacts on road accessibility and air transport, but by sake of time, I will escape that. And last impact of climate would be on settlements and tourism. So climate change could place considerable pressure on fragile communities, particularly indigenous populations. For instance, changes in the distribution of Arctic mammals and fish stocks would directly affect Inuit and Sami populations, since these are the main source of food and income. On the other hand, in Greenland, the development of new mining opportunities will open up new employment opportunities. As regards tourism, a warmer climate will have a lot of impacts in NORA-Region, so increasing the accessibility of areas previously inaccessible. Green tourism is a growth area that the region could capitalize upon. Increased awareness of the vulnerability of the Arctic to climate change may increase popularity of NORA countries as a tourist destination. For winter tourism, less predictable snowfalls could be a problem. At the same time, the effects of climate change in other winter resorts, for instance in the Alps, could be even more damaging and lead to an increase in tourist numbers to more northern destinations. So what are the opportunities for cooperation? So it is increasingly acknowledged that the impacts of climate change are already being observed in NORA countries and the Arctic regions. And the Arctic regions in particular are expected to face challenges more strongly and earlier than in most other parts of the world. So climate change has crucial implications for the NORA countries. Economic implication first. So we saw fisheries or aquaculture, agriculture, hunting, energy, natural resources, transport, tourism, and so forth. But environmental change is not just about responding to economic opportunities and challenges, but also to threats to traditional ways of life and how communities move forward and adapt to changed conditions. Despite being a largely peripheral, sparsely populated regions, the effect of climate change in the NORA region have also a global implication. Crucially, changes in the ice sheets in the far north of the region and the opening of new sea routes have major global implications. The scope to explore and exploit new mineral and energy resources in the region have important international economic implications. So NORA countries are already involved in national and international efforts to monitor and more clearly understand the impacts of climate change. However, there is an urgent need to join efforts to mitigate and adapt to climate change in this part of the world. NORA countries can learn one from each other. NORA countries have in common the resource base of their economies. The benefits of coordinating initiatives seems apparent.